We know we looked a bit stupid. It was a little bit embarrassing. If we'd released FM25 in the state that it was in, it wouldn't have been good value for money and it would have damaged us forever. So right now we are in the reception area of our offices in Stratford in Here East, which is part of the Olympic legacy. And we're sitting in our reception area and surrounded by football shirts from some of our favourite players of all time.
We've got to talk about the cancellation of Football Manager 2025. What led to that decision? So first the game was postponed and then eventually the company said that the game wasn't going to come out anymore. So can you talk us through what happened?
The reason for the cancellation was really simple, which is I wasn't happy with the quality of the game. And people work really, really hard to get the money together to be able to buy computer games, right? They're not cheap things. And whilst in FM's case it is good value for money, if we'd released FM25 in the state that it was in, it wouldn't have been good value for money and it would have damaged us forever. It was the most ambitious title that we'd ever set out to make. We'd changed our engine. There's a lot inside the game was changing. But during the development cycle, there were a few things that went wrong during the cycle. And to be frank, even if everything had gone perfectly, we still might not have made it with the quality level that we were expecting. That our consumers expect from us as well. We originally postponed the game, actually for different reasons to the cancellation. At the time that we postponed the game, not all of the content was inside the game, and there were three things that went wrong on the same day. One was a big development curveball of something we'd simply forgotten about. And then it came into the mix and we were like, well, how on earth can we do that with all this other stuff that we need to do? One of them was a legal thing, and one of them was something with a third party. And those three things happened on the day that we announced that the game was coming. If they'd happened a week before, we would not have announced that the game was coming. We knew that we were going to have to postpone, so went down the path of what we could do. And it meant that we'd done a big announcement, we'd said when other announcements were coming, and then we didn't make the other announcements because simply we knew that we were going to postpone the game, but there were a lot of steps that we needed to go through before we could confirm that. So we know we looked a bit stupid. It was a little bit embarrassing, but it was also unavoidable because of these unknown unknowns that hit us. Known unknowns we can deal with, unknown unknowns we can't. The cancellation was different. So once all the content was in, we had our own internal QA team, quality assurance team, who were giving feedback. We'd brought in a load of consumers to test the game as well. And the average rating we were getting from the consumers was around 7 out of 10. That's not a Sports Interactive quality level. And I personally think that they were being quite generous as well with the scores. So I got a build of the game just before Christmas, which was meant to be, right, this is the final version of it, apart from bug fixes and what we need to do. And I was about 2 hours into playing it when I just said to myself, this isn't good enough, we can't do this. This isn't to our normal quality level. And then waited a little bit because it was Christmas. I didn't want to ruin people's Christmases. And I carried on playing, and every time I was playing, it was like, nope. Still the same thing. And first day back in the new year, I spoke to the COO here, I spoke to the comms director here, and I spoke to my production director, and then spoke to Sega's CEO to say that this will be a very big mistake if we are to release. We'd made too many changes to the UI. We tried to be too clever with what we were doing. We started going through the corporate motions of what you have to do when you're going to cancel, spoke to the team, the dev team a few weeks later, and put together the plan to make the announcement. And we wanted to make the announcement at the end of January because we'd said there was going to be more news in January. But again, we looked a little bit stupid because we couldn't say anything in January because of Japanese stock market rules where our parent company are based. So at the earliest opportunity, which ended up being 2:30 in the morning, UK time, we put out the announcement to say that the game was cancelled. mention that again at 9 o'clock. But the TLDR version is, I wasn't happy with the quality of the game, and I wasn't prepared for people to be going out and spending their hard-earned money on something that wasn't good enough. It would be unfair on them.
There has been some criticism, though, of the communication and the way that the cancellation was handled. Some fans saying that there was a lack of transparency. I guess, what do you make of that?
We own it. We would have liked those announcements to be slightly different, but I've given the reasons why they've come when they came. I mean, when it comes to transparency, historically, I think we have been massively transparent as a studio. I do multiple blogs a year. Up until last October, I was on social media for people to talk to me directly. I didn't have anyone managing the account. I would reply to people. And then I had some abuse last year that was the final straw. And this will sound weird, right? But I'm used to people having a go at me when they lose a game inside Football Manager. I'm used to death threats, which is a ridiculous thing to say, but I've had quite a few of them now. What I'm not used to is anti-Semitic abuse, which happened to me on social media. Now, I personally don't believe in organised religion. If people want to, that's great. That's up to them. I totally respect what everyone else wants to believe. But my mother was Jewish. Therefore, by birth, I am recognised as being Jewish. And to come at me, someone who has campaigned against racism for his whole career, that's the final straw for me. So unfortunately, that has now gone. But we tried to be transparent. And where some of these accusations have come from is I wrote in a blog that we will be as transparent as we can be. No corporation, no business can ever be fully transparent because there are laws that stop you from doing so. So when it comes to postponing, you have to let the stock market know first. So that's why we were delayed at being able to announce that. When it comes to cancelling, you have to let the stock market know first. So it kind of limits what we can do, and we can't give hints towards it until the city are able to be told. So it's frustrating for us as well, because we wanted to be telling people as quickly as possible. We just couldn't.
Has not releasing Football Manager 25 had an impact on what you've been able to put into Football Manager 26?
Yeah, it has had an impact on what we could put in FM26, and it's very important for us to take stock and actually look at what had gone wrong in the process. And a lot of the dev teams inside the dev team, because you split everything up into smaller pieces, had retros to work out where they thought that things had gone wrong, not just in their area, across the whole business. As part of our first announcements, for example, we spoke about how we weren't going to have an email inbox anymore. It was all going to be WhatsApp-based now, because that's how people work in football. The reality is that system did not work well in-game at all. And that was one of the biggest frustrations, or the second biggest frustration with the user experience, away from the navigation, was that system. That system's now changed. And we've gone back to something a little bit more familiar. It's still new, there's still a lot of difference, but it's a lot more familiar.
One of the new features initially for Football Manager 25, but now for 26, is the introduction of women's football into the game. Something you've spoken about in the past, wanting to bring in, but at that time, it maybe wasn't commercially viable. What led you to this decision, and what challenges has it posed as you've developed the game?
So you're right that I did use that line, that it wasn't commercially viable. And the reason that we changed our minds and decided to do it was at an event. Some of the Lionesses came to say hello and told me that it would never be commercially viable unless people like us actually got behind it. And the BBC have done that, and Sky have done that, and EAFC have done that, and now we are, and we're late to the party, and Again, I apologise for that, but sometimes it takes someone better informed than you to give you some information for you to be able to make a decision. And that's what happened there. Now, since we made that decision, obviously women's football has become more and more popular, but there is still a glass ceiling that needs to be smashed through, and they need people like us and yourselves at the BBC to help smash through that glass ceiling, because the quality of the game is getting so much better than it was. And, you know, the attendances are definitely going up as well. We've got next season, Arsenal will be having most of their league games, if not all of their league games, actually at their home stadium rather than having them at Boreham Wood. That's going to drive the average crowd size up. The same thing's happening at other clubs as well. You've got Everton announcing that Everton women are now going to be playing at Goodison, which is a huge commitment from that new ownership, because they would have got a lot of money from building flats on that ground instead. So we're now going to be part of the journey that can hopefully help it break through the glass ceiling, because at the end of the day, it's just football, right? Whether it's women playing football or men playing football, it's football. So we have gone quite big on women's football. We'll be making announcements in the next few weeks on exactly how big, but there will be a good selection of leagues. There's a good selection of licenses to play, and there will be lots of choice for people, but you can also seamlessly move between men's football and women's football inside the game. It doesn't differentiate, which is also something that we wanted to ensure was the case when we were making the game. So it's something we're very excited about, and hopefully we will have done the people who originally came to talk to me about it justice.